Captain America Brave New World is a really strange movie. If you last saw Sam Wilson accept the shield in Endgame and then started this movie straight away, you'd assume no time had passed and would have no idea that the events of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier transpired. Crucially, you wouldn't need to know, as he ended that show wiser, but in the same position as that final Endgame scene, and not a single thing from that show is later referenced here. No, the things you would absolutely need to have seen for this movie to make any sense is the 17-year-old Hulk movie and Marvel's first true bomb in the Eternals. Between those odd reference points, Sam's lack of super soldier serum, and the fact that he's been benched for the last 4 years, it almost feels like Marvel Studios went out of their way to botch this very first big screen Cap adventure.
What if it's a trap? Global power is shifting.
I don't think the MCU got so far because it had the best action, or the best score, or the best cinematography, but it almost always had characters we could get behind and competent stories. Along the way, particularly in the post-Endgame run, those elements have really degraded, in turn laying bare all of the series' other middle-of-the-road elements and shortcomings. Captain America Brave New World is part of a sub-series in this universe that provided us with some of the best superhero offerings. Now it joins the bottom-tier club of MCU projects. What happened? Why has the MCU lost the ability to deliver on things it used to make look so easy? For me, Captain America Brave New World is an epic nosedive, and I'm going to break down all the reasons why, from the story, to the characters, to the lack of super soldier serum, and the abundance of Hulk characters for some reason. What did you think of Brave New World? Did you actually like it? Even love it? Where does it stand amongst the other Cap movies? Or are you similarly disappointed and hoping for something better? Let me know in the comments below, and if you want more Marvel videos like my breakdowns of Steve's greatest unseen mission or the problem of the current state of the MCU's Hulk, then please subscribe for more. You can also venture over to the Full Fat podcast for a further bonus chat on the movie this week. Oh, and prepare for full fat spoilers from here on out. Julius Onah is often badmouthed for directing the Cloverfield Paradox, but I had faith in him after seeing the brilliant and underrated Loose several years ago. The fact that the movie has turned out like this doesn't necessitate that it's his fault. We really don't know what level of studio interference went on, or what the very publicised reshoots did to change the story. But this is the first major Sam Wilson cinematic appearance without the Russos, or writers Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, and it shows. For a movie that did have reshoots to the point of axing Seth Rollins and Rosa Salazar and adding Giancarlo Esposito, it really is a small miracle that it's as coherent as it is. This isn't nearly the mess it could have been, and I don't think any of its problems stem from the fact that it doesn't potentially make any sense. Everything tracks from A to B. The problems with the movie stem from the fact that none of the things happening are ever particularly interesting or exciting. Still, I can't wait for more details of the pre-reshoot cut that will surely come to light after the movie is released. The whole movie is set against the backdrop of a geopolitical thriller, and this genre is signalled in the most basic terms. The trailers love to imply that this story would be about an intricate web of lies, with our leads being unable to trust anyone or see the real machinations at play, but in truth, anyone with a vague knowledge of the comics will see all the twists and turns coming from a mile away. We all knew the leader would be driving the plot, and that he would be the one manipulating Ross into becoming the Red Hulk, so the plot has little in the way of genuine surprises. Maybe these beats would be worth watching if they generated interesting character work, but unfortunately, none of the key players bear anything all that vulnerable or interesting. The whole idea that America and Japan are on the brink of war over the celestial remains is seriously undercooked. You'd never buy that one false move could topple this house of cards, and it feels less like an elaborate game of chess and more like Connect 4. The presence of adamantium in the movie is completely skin deep. Ross explains that it's tougher than vibranium, but that's it. We don't even really see it in its raw form, let alone in action. In the Fox-Men movies, it's described as virtually indestructible and carries real weight, but it has no practical application here. Having a nation or guerrilla outfit with adamantium weapons would have helped to sell us on the dangers of the metal falling into the wrong hands, or why Ross and the other leaders are so desperate to have it. When the Serpent Society, Heavy, cuts Sam's vibranium suit, he seems surprised. I thought we were going to learn the Serpents were given adamantium weaponry from the leader or something, but that beat comes to nothing, and makes me think that was the case at one point, but it was cut.
You asked for me. Here I am.
Carl Lumbly's Isaiah Bradley is the beating heart of an incredibly soulless movie. His character is not only likeable, he's the only one that really manages to make you feel anything. His plight is heartbreaking, and you really feel it when he's moved to the verge of tears at the thought of being imprisoned again after being locked up for all those years prior. It gives Sam some genuine thrust in his mission, and ups the otherwise non-existent stakes when it seems Isaiah could be given the death penalty. It's unfortunate that we don't get more scenes of Isaiah and Sam, because their interactions are the best character work in a movie, and the only time it feels like a genuine chord is going to be struck with the audience. Structurally, the film feels like a poor man's Winter Soldier, and I think you could even tell this from the trailers. It was obvious that the wait for it sequence with the old suit would be the opener, a poor man's version of the Metal Gear Solid 2-esque mission aboard the Lemurian Star. Following Ross's assassination attempt, we knew Sam would get jumped in his car much like the Fury scene from Winter, again a poor man's version. In another scene derivative of Winter Soldier, Wilson and Torres travel to a secret military base to acquire the necessary exposition from a secret villain hiding out there. Where the movie divulges is that it's like if the fun, if fairly one-note Zola wasn't a surprise and instead ended up becoming the main villain for the rest of the movie. It was clear from the trailers the one big aerial sequence would be at the end of the second act, end with Torres shot out of the sky, and then transition to the third act White House battle with 5 minutes of Red Hulk. I don't know, maybe I've had to watch too many trailers for these movies, but I feel like the marketing gave away everything from the shock twists to the very structure of the film itself. Red Hulk shouldn't have been shown off at all, and it would have been at least a cool shock to find out the mysterious villain wasn't a Cap-centric one like Sharon Carter or Val, but in fact, the leader. The big divisive decision regarding this new Cap came when the Disney Plus Origin show took up a moral stance against him taking the super soldier serum. It was a strange decision, and one that really disappointed me at the time. Every other version of Cap got the serum, even Captain Carter, so it seemed like a step back to make Sam the only one. When he debuted as Cap in the final episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, his abilities were basically the same plus the shield, except he couldn't toss around the weapon with the same speed or power as Steve, because he didn't have the superpowers to go with it. In the lead up to Brave New World, I hoped that it would do more to convince me that making this Cap more tech-based would pay off. Do they pull it off? Well, yes and no. Sam gets a few notable tech upgrades which help to level the playing field, ones that I actually advocated for 4 years ago.
I think they've got to definitely upgrade his capabilities. Like, there was some cool moments, but like, as well, he gets the suit from Wakanda. Why is it not a bit more like nanotechy, or like are the wings not nanotechy, or like why has he not been given like the kinetic energy absorption stuff?
The greatest upgrade is the vibranium kinetic energy shielding, the same kind first introduced with Black Panther's second suit. At times it can feel like a bit of a get out of jail free card, especially during his battle with the Red Hulk, as it can explain away pretty much any huge blow. But on the other hand, it's the perfect tech upgrade to level the playing field, and it's supremely satisfying to watch Sam dig his wings into the ground and detonate a blast wave, sending every bad guy flying. Thematically, it works really nicely. Sam rejects the serum because of the past treatment of Isaiah and amongst other reasons, but Wakanda represents something different. In turn, the Wakandans promise to no longer be isolationist, and giving the Black Captain America some of their heightened tech honours that promise. He also gets some nanotech in the form of projectile feathers that fire out of his wings, and of course, the nanotech helmet. I've seen many lampoon yet another Marvel hero getting nanotech, and look, I get it, but it would be kind of weird if the Wakandans didn't give him some, considering they have the technology. Sam needs all the boosts he can get, quite frankly, so if anything, I wouldn't mind if he lent into it more. When he loses one of his wings in the final battle, I was fully expecting him to sprout a reformed nanotech replacement. Red Wing still kicks ass, and I like seeing Sam using grappling hooks and other little gadgets. I think they could definitely keep leaning into a Batman vibe if they want to sell us on the no serum Sentinel of Liberty. One thing I would appreciate more is seeing Sam get a bit more tech savvy himself. I want to see him tinker with the tech he's given, innovate, and come up with his own ideas. I don't need the character to become a Tony or a Shuri, but a little input would be nice to make his gear feel more his own.
Captain America caught without his wings.
It's cool to see him caught short without his gear facing Seth Volker, and recalls the scene in Iron Man 2 where Tony gets treated to a surprise attack from Vanko. But they go way overboard with trying to prove that Sam can fight without his gear, to the point where I feel like we don't get enough shield and wing play in the movie. Take the aforementioned Wilson and Torres secret base incursion scene. Unlike Steve and Nat, they have plenty of time to gear up before they go, and they simply choose not to. Seriously, why did they go in their civvies? Sam brings Red Wing and the shield and no vibranium suit or wings. Things that would really have come in handy. The hand-to-hand combat in the film is so-so, but it's at least nice to see Sam get a notable buff in that department, even with his gear. I think we're all fed up of watching him kick dudes after spinning, but the point still remains, he should have gotten the super soldier serum, for perhaps no other reason than the fact that it makes the action more entertaining. Forget all the story reasons for a second, people don't bring this up nearly enough in my opinion. This is an action movie, and we loved seeing the old Cap flex the serum in the action scenes, so why limit the action of this new film? The whole idea that not having the serum makes him more of an everyman is so flawed and silly anyway, because he has all of this outlandish gear that makes him completely ridiculous. And the movie just gives him superhuman feats when the plot demands it. Take note of the fact that in the final battle, Sam manages to stop a flagpole being swung by the Red Hulk. His whole non-serumed body should have shattered. Come on now. So the tech upgrades have made his Cap much cooler, and I can get behind the idea of a more tech-savvy iteration, but his depictions either need to stick to that or buckle and take the serum. You can't take a moral stance against it and then have him doing things that are superhuman anyway. It just doesn't work. I've seen several social posts bring up the Wakandan herb as a possible alternative, and I actually think that's kind of brilliant. If Sam took the serum now, after everything, it would feel like a Rise of Skywalker tier undoing, but the Wakandan herb still gives you super soldier style abilities without the baggage of how the government treated Isaiah. He's already accepted Wakandan tech, the herb is just an extension of that. We could have our cake and eat it too here. It's unlikely, but then again, the Russos gave Thor a new hammer and Quill a new mask, so maybe Doomsday could just sort this whole mess out. Serum or not, the action scenes still felt like a huge step down, and I think it's a testament to the Russos' direction in those old Cap movies, as well as the presence of Sam Hargrave as the stunt coordinator. There's been plenty written and said about how the Russos have faltered without Marvel over the years, but it seems Marvel have also declined without them there to bolster the excitement, particularly when it comes to Cap. Sam also gets a new suit in this one, but it seems that during the reshoots he was given his popular streaming suit back for the opening action sequence. I really like the new suit. It fits far better than the first Sam Wilson Cap suit, which was baggy and had lots of creases in places around his joints for some reason. This new suit is super sleek and looks easier to move around in. However, the predominantly white Cap suit gave him much more of a unique look in comparison to Rogers, which is ironic when the series and film keep going to great lengths to remind us that Sam is not a retread. His new costume certainly is, but I hope his next inevitable suit is a combo of both. The awesome comic accurate white look, but with the sleek redesign of his new suit. I liked Danny Ramirez in both Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Top Gun Maverick, but frankly, his Falcon is a complete waste of time. Paper-thin characterization, he unfortunately gets saddled with the cringiest jokes and the lamest action beats. This isn't a partnership on par with the chemistry of the original Cap and Falcon.
Hey Cap, how do we know the good guys from the bad guys? If they're shooting at you, they're bad.
It feels like they ported Sam's Falcon persona into this new character in lieu of making him more stoic and serious as Cap. something that he wasn't in the Disney Plus show.
I wonder how much I can get for your new bird costume.
Maybe a baguette, a few french fries.
I don't think every superhero mantle in the MCU needs to be filled when someone vacates the role. Sam traded the Falcon for Cap, that's fine. We didn't need a new Falcon, we needed new characters, especially if Sam was keeping the wings. We end up with 2 wingsuit characters in the movie, and it just feels redundant. Everything the Falcon can do, Captain America can already do, and then some. I like the original Falcon and Cap combo. One could fly, and one could kick dudes at 100 miles per hour. And then before this Falcon can gain any kind of identity, he gets blown out of the sky and written out of the finale completely. The film would have been a lot stronger if it had simply built on the strong foundation between Sam and Bucky as his right-hand man, and they would have actually fulfilled different tactical roles with different powers. Hell, even writing Isaiah into the adventure as Sam's co-lead would have produced a better dynamic. The current Cap and the so-called OG Forgotten Cap uncovering the leader's plot, at least it would feel fresher than what we got. Tim Blake Nelson is a fantastic actor, and I've wanted to see him become the leader when we were promised it almost 2 decades ago. I was literally in year 7 when this got teased, and now I'm almost 30. Oh. Sadly, he's not facing the Hulk. Even worse, he's utterly wasted, teleports into random scenes with no explanation of how he travelled there so quickly, and drops some vague material about being the hero of the story and wanting retribution for a pretty run-of-the-mill revenge plot. Much discourse has been generated over his redesign. Supposedly test audiences laughed at and mocked his original live-action look, as seen in promos and Funko Pops. I liked the principle of the new design, but was disappointed it didn't go any further. It really just looks like a bunch of tumours on top of a bald Tim Blake Nelson, when it seems the concept for this was that his brain was literally exposed, bursting out of his skull. I think it needed to be more apparent in the final look. They also had to nerf the leader to make him fight Sam Wilson. Where's his telekinesis? Where are his connections with the intelligentsia? He should have been a massive big bad that would need a team like the Avengers to fight him. He is an Avengers level threat. Seeing Sam flying around whilst the leader was hurling loads of objects at him with telekinesis would have been a cool fight in of itself, fit for a finale. The problem with the leader is he's only as smart as the script will allow. He can spout probabilities all day long, but in the end his plans always seem short-sighted and easily thwarted. Compare his plans to that of, say, Dark Knight's Joker. That was a villain that pressed the hero constantly, with mind-bending scenarios that pushed his intelligence and his morals, and made the film have a breakneck pace. And he was seen as a regular, albeit highly capable human being. This gamma-brained antagonist is supposed to be 50 steps ahead, but he's less limitless and more limited.
I was blind, but now I see.
Bucky's cameo might be the worst scene in the entire movie, not because I don't like seeing Sebastian Stan, but because the entire exchange retreads well trodden ground. It was bad enough when Ross had to remind Sam and the audience that the hero is not Steve Rogers, but in this scene, Sam starts babbling about Steve making a mistake in passing the mantle to him, how he should have taken the serum, how he's not fit to be Cap 2.0. All these feelings were already navigated in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. I had hoped that we would be done with all that, and this movie could just get to work proving why Sam was not only the right choice, but the most fun and entertaining one. Bucky didn't need to turn up to tell him that Steve was right. We don't need to keep talking about Steve, to be perfectly honest. How is the audience meant to move on with a new Cap when even the movie that's about him can't do it? It's also frustrating because, again, Bucky should have been on this adventure. Why would you show it to me if I can't have it?
How the fuck would you show me something if I couldn't have it?
The Bucky scene also has the age-old Marvel problem. As soon as there's pathos, as soon as there's something sincere, they have to undercut the moment with a joke. It was perhaps funny for audiences in 2014, but I heard audible groans in my screening, and I fully understand why. I think in years to come, this kind of undercutting the drama will age really badly and only come off as even more cringe than it does now. Sometimes it's okay to just let us feel things.
Since when were they red?
Ruth Bat-Sarath generated a lot of controversy in the lead up to the movie, in no small part due to her original highly politicized superhero moniker in the comics and the current geopolitical climate. Well, Marvel really waded through all of that for nothing, because not only is this character completely one note, she's realised with all the warmth and acting chops of a wet paper bag. The character is described as an ex-Black Widow, which means that between Cap 2.0, Falcon 2.0 and Widow 2.0, we have the original Winter Soldier trio without any of the chemistry or characterization. Ruth seriously sucks in this movie. Nothing would have been lost from cutting the character entirely. The only other notable female character is a Secret Service aide to Ross called Leela Taylor. She has a pre-existing relationship with Sam, but despite a comic book foundation for romance, it never moves past a working dynamic and never gets any depth. And that's your only two women in the entire movie. Honestly, why even bother? They get such little motivation or depth that this might as well be called Captain America Sausage Fest. After characters like Peggy and Natasha in the previous movies, even this element is a real step down. But let's talk about Thunderbolt Ross, the kind of antagonist co-lead of the movie, played by bona fide movie star Harrison Ford, following in the footsteps of Tommy Lee Jones and Robert Redford by seriously classing up this Cap adventure. I've seen Ross get compared to Trump and Biden in various reviews and social chatter, but I fail to see what cunning allegory can be found here, or what comparisons can really be made, aside from the fact that he's an old curmudgeon white guy in the White House. Nothing about this movie had any political teeth. For better or for worse, it isn't drawing comparisons to any president because it doesn't really have anything to say. Ross is the president because they wanted the Red Hulk to emerge in front of the White House, and that's ultimately it. It's about the imagery and nothing else. It's a real shame that William Hurt kept the Incredible Hulk alive in MCU canon across Phase 3 with his consistent portrayal of Ross, only to pass before he was given the chance to reprise the role with as much screen time and story focus as he had in his first stint. It would have felt far more satisfying to see the actor turn into the Red Hulk and tie all of those appearances together, but sadly, it wasn't meant to be. Getting Harrison Ford in this movie is a feat, no doubt, but it's such a blatant recast that it really doesn't feel like the same character at all. I wonder if they should have scrapped the plans for Ross and retired the character. It's not like there's not a million other things you could have done with Cap 4 instead. Giancarlo Esposito's Sidewinder could have easily been the main villain alongside the Serpent Society. Recast aside, it is actually incredible that A, Ford is in so much of the movie, this is no 3-scene supporting role in one location, but that B, he doesn't phone it in. Ford is giving it some, and there's one key scene where Sam presses the wartime general turned wartime president that provides their best sparring match. But Ford's performance only makes the weak script even more frustrating, as he has nothing to work with. The whole emotional arc with him involves the idea that he's turned over a new leaf and is trying to make amends for his past failings. Sam says to the leader something akin to, "Have you ever considered that you're wrong about Ross in the third act?" But frankly, why the hell does Sam think that? We know from past movies that he hunted Bruce Banner to the point of ruin, destroyed the Avengers with his bureaucracy, and hunted the remaining members, stifling their efforts to counter Thanos' plans. He had Stearns in prison for years and lied to him repeatedly for his own ends. No wonder Betty doesn't want to talk to him. He's never shown any signs of changing, and the character doesn't do anything to make us sympathise with him. What has Ross done to show that he has a heart? Nothing, neither has William Hurt or Harrison Ford. The only version of the character that has ever really shown a more compassionate side is the Sam Elliott version in a different universe altogether. Really, Sam should be agreeing with Stearns in principle, if not in his destructive methods. Ross absolutely needed to be brought down before he ruined the lives of anyone else. The movie could have had a genuine shock in his Red Hulk transformation, but they decided to structure all the marketing around it. Thus, the audience is always ahead of the movie, and there's no payoff in this Hulk out moment at the end. I will say, for a movie that mainly looked cramped in locations and like an extension of a streaming show, the effects for Red Hulk are stellar. His skin expressions look really real, and it was great to see a Hulk go on a rampage for the first time in a decade.
Come on, on, guys!
I was really worried about the Cap vs Red Hulk fight ever since it was confirmed. How in the hell would Steve Rogers take on a Hulk, let alone Sam Wilson? Not only are the plot reasons for this matchup wafer thin, the fight itself is a cop-out. Sam, of course, can't damage the Red Hulk in any meaningful way, so the whole thing consists of him trying to run away. This all comes back to the decision to not give Sam the super serum, because the plot armor in this fight has to go into overdrive to make us believe an ordinary man wouldn't be turned into a Hulk protein shake on sight. At one point, Red Hulk starts cracking Sam's vibranium helmet, and the two stare off. Why in the hell doesn't Ross just pummel Sam with his other free hand? And then Sam gets loose by kicking one of his vibranium talons into Hulk's flesh. How in the hell is a normal human kick powerful enough to dig shrapnel into Hulk flesh? Don't tell me this is a comic book universe, so it doesn't matter. That's a fallacy. We buy into the fantasy elements that are established. If we were told one guy is an ordinary guy, he should not be able to kick metal into a Hulk. None of this battle really works, and it is just as much a bending of the rules as I thought it was going to be. It didn't need to be this way. Rogers, outside of one super soldier baddie, fought only normal soldiers in his second movie. In the third movie, fighting Iron Man was seen as a nigh impossible task where he needed help to win. Giving regular Cap a Hulk to fight doesn't sell me on his ordinary status or worthiness to carry the shield. Just give me entertaining action and good, character-driven stakes, and we'd be there all the same. At least Sam doesn't win because of some contrived vibranium bullshit, or because Red Hulk overheats or anything like that. He wins because he manages to talk him down and remind him of Betty and his willingness to change. Well, on paper, that is great, but in reality, the movie should have made Betty a proper character. Then this whole denouement would have worked. Instead, Liv Tyler returns after a 17-year absence for a thankless cameo. I hate it when Marvel says a character is coming back, and it manifests in a scene where it looks like they were phoning in the performance from a green screen. It doesn't feel like they've really truly returned. At least Tim Blake Nelson is really in the movie, even if his role isn't very well executed. The movie manages to further ruin the Hulk in this franchise, something I thought impossible after his awful comedy stint and final arc occurring off screen. The Hulk doesn't get to fight his two biggest villains in the Leader and Ross, but what I find more haunting is that in The Incredible Hulk, Bruce and Betty longed for each other. They were very much in love, but pulled apart because of the situation with the Hulk. Yet all these years later, Bruce is effectively cured because of his metamorphosis into Smart Hulk. Why haven't the two reunited? If the movie really wanted to bring back all of these Incredible Hulk elements, then it should have done it properly and faced these questions head on. What would have been so bad about a Sam Wilson Smart Hulk buddy adventure? I certainly would have enjoyed seeing Sam and Bruce team up over the dollar store Falcon and dollar store Black Widow we got saddled with instead. I don't really understand why Sam had to fight Hulk villains in the first place. His first proper Cap story saw him facing off with US Agent and the Flag Smashers, appropriate for the Cap-centric corner of the MCU. Zemo played a big role, and the Power Broker was established for the future. I would have loved to have seen the Mad Bomb adapted for Cap 4 after it was dropped from Cap 3, or even just having the Serpent Society as the main bad guys. Hell, even if we had to have a Hulk villain, these two make the least sense in favour of, say, the Abomination. That character was an actual super soldier, making him thematically opposed to Sam, and even noted that he thought he was metaphorically Captain America during the events of the Incredible Hulk. Giving this movie the slightest bit of thought when picking his rogues gallery could have led to this pairing over Sam versus the Leader, which just feels like mashing action figures together. The movie ends at a surprisingly lean 1 hour 47 minutes, but unfortunately this will just further convince people that superhero movies are doomed to fail if they're not well over 2 hours. This could have been a tight, pacey tale, but by the end of that 1 hour 47, it feels like nothing of note has transpired. America and Japan wave away their animosity, Ross is given a reunion with Betty that he doesn't really deserve, the Leader has been captured, and the Avengers are no closer to being rebuilt. I don't see what fundamental arc was given to Sam or Joaquin that had any kind of meaning. I would have forgiven a thin plot if the characters had been stronger, and I would have been more lenient if the action had been more compelling. Overall, it's such a huge step down from the first 3 Cap movies, and from the time we've spent with Sam Wilson in the past. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier had its flaws, and it ran out of steam in its final act, but man, it had better conflicts and conversations, it tested the heroes with more gusto, it had far better villains in John Walker and the allied Zemo. Hell, the opening action scene is still the best Sam Wilson set piece in his entire MCU run, and he didn't even wield the shield at that point in time. Most of all, I just feel so incredibly awful for Anthony Mackie. He's been awesome in the MCU for 11 years, which is now as long as Robert Downey Jr. was kicking around from Iron Man 1 to Endgame. This should have been his big moment. This should have been a success on the level of Iron Man 1, or Black Panther, or Captain Marvel. This should have evoked the awesome action and tension of the Winter Soldier. It should have felt like old school Marvel, and rewarded Mackie with a definitive Captain America adventure. Instead, his best Cap adventure is still the Disney Plus streaming show, which had more nuance, Captain America-specific villains, and arguably better action. When you really think about the post-Endgame run, what movies have been real hits critically as well as commercially? I think broadly, you could make the arguments for No Way Home, Volume 3, and Deadpool and Wolverine. The first is banking on Sony staples from before the MCU even started, the second is a James Gunn joint through and through, and really the end of a previous regime, and the third is jumping off of a bunch of Fox staples. What bread and butter MCU movie has really worked for critics and audiences and been a real hit? Something like Brave New World could have been a real return to form, something truly evocative of the highs of the Winter Soldier. Instead, it seems to prop up the current status quo, that the MCU has been running on fumes for way too long. But what did you think? Were you disappointed with Captain America Brave New World, or do you think the hate is unwarranted? As always, let me know in the comments below.
A big thank you to my current Full Fat tier patrons, Dr. Chike and Peter Vaughan. Thank you so much for your massive contributions, and I hope you enjoyed this video and many more to come. Please head on over to that Full Fat podcast channel in the pinned comment or description. You'll get another Cap Brave New World video, as well as all the podcast cutdowns for free. And please subscribe to that, and please subscribe to this channel for more, because there's lots of awesome things coming in 2025 for Full Fat videos.